A little bit of volatility today, a little bit of a pop, but overall, a whole lot of indifference coming in the overall markets today. Little indecision, basically a whole lot of nothing in here when you kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture. One of these days was expected. I mean, overall, we are up $3 from last week's close with that elongated weekend that we just had. But overall, that's about all you can say, right? $3 from where we were last week. We've seen bigger moves within 10 minutes rather than that, right? So overall, we'll take what we can get, but what we really want to see is a bigger move. But one of these days was very much needed. Now, as far as where we're going to look at technically here on our SPY, we're basically in between two key moving averages right now, the 9-day EMA and this 50-day SMA right here. So to the upside, the 9-day EMA is currently trading at 662. That's going to be our first hurdle. Anything above there, we're looking at that 678 range once more. To the downside in here, if the 650 doesn't hold, which is going to be that 50-day SMA, then anything below here, we're looking at 637, 626, and then eventually down here at 615. That is kind of our worst case scenario in here, but we do need this 50-day moving average to hold. We need some volume like we just had in the past 3 weeks. And then perhaps we can start working our way back into those 680s. But again, a day like this is needed, just kind of a breather, right? From the volatility that we just had. I know everybody was just kind of coming back and recovering from that elongated weekend that we just had with Good Friday and Easter. So perhaps a little bit of recovery in here as we're getting ready to finish out this week in here. Now, sometimes it's good to just kind of pick random stocks from a bunch of different sectors. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to start off looking at UNH in here. You can see that we were getting really tight ever since we had that big drop in here in January. We're trading right around those 280s currently. The big level in here that we are going to watch is going to be that 280, anything below there, really 255 or 256, whichever one does come first. That's where this lower trend line of this overall structure is. To the upside in here, we are going to be looking at that 294, and then obviously you have that 300 psych level that we do need to be dealing with. Now, as far as our implied volatility goes with United Health, you're still relatively juiced in here compared to itself just because of all the volatility that we had in here in the past year. So there's still going to be a little bit in here because everybody still is waiting, right? Eventually this thing's going to pop or it's going to tank, right? So that's why you have a little bit of volatility in here still. $29 expected move by this Friday, $40 by the following. Then you have earnings coming up April 21st pre-market. So everybody's going to be ready for that. And this thing should get some decent movements off of there. We're going to take a look at a bank stock in here, Bank of America. I haven't checked out this in a little while in here. Overall, nice little climb in here in the past month or so. You can see a lot of red and a lot of big old downtrend in here. There's your doji right here. So time for reversal. That's what we're doing here overall. We're trading in that $50 handle right now. We're up about 1.5% from where we closed last week. So that $50 handle, we do need to hold this 50-day SMA that we're currently above right now. If we can hold that, then next up on the ticket is going to be 51. And then it's nice whole numbers, right? 52, 53, 54, working our way all the way up here till we get to this 56.30 or this upper trend line of this overall structure. We might overrun that 56.30 very quickly. But if not, this is going to be where all our resistance is before we get up here to this overall structure. To the downside in here, we are going to be looking obviously at that 50-day SMA. Then we're looking at this 48.47 here, and then the lower trend line of this overall structure. We're going to take a look at Lowe's. I always like Lowe's and Home Depot because you do get that retail side of things, but also you get that overall you can kind of see where lumber and things are like that, how they're being priced. It gives you a big hint as to as far as I guess like real estate and home buyers and things like that. It kind of gives you a little bit of everything, right? Lowe's and Home Depot. So we're going to see if we climb back in this overall structure. It looks like we did. So the lower trend line in here, that's going to be trading at 243. Anything to the downside is going to be that 200 SMA. You can see it basically more or less saved us in here the past 3 weeks. That's currently trading at 227. To the upside, what are we looking at? Where we have this 9-day EMA and this 50-day SMA. They're all right around that 243 area. That's going to be a major resistance for us. So perhaps a little bit of volume, a little bit of push up up here in our RSI, we can get up to that range and then play that thing accordingly. Last but not least, we're going to take a look at our VIX in here. Just because it's always good to compare what our VIX did with our overall markets on the day. You can see basically red. We mentioned before 23 to 28. That's going to be our new norm. We're sitting right here, 24. We are technically up on the day, but we do have a red candle overall. Anything below here, this 23, we're going to be looking at this $20 handle. And then obviously you have the two major moving averages right here that you have to worry about right around that $18 handle. To the upside, anything outside of 28, we're basically just going to call it at the high of last week, which is right around 31. So overall, that is what we're looking at in here. It's always good when we have indifferences in the market. It means there's a nice break, a nice breather, right? And it's always good to just kind of look at, just pick a random stock from each sector and just kind of digest what is happening, right? Don't really have to get super too far in the weeds with things. Just kind of digest what's going on and be aware of your surroundings and what is happening overall. So that's what we're looking at in here in the overall markets. We're going to see what happens tomorrow as we continue on throughout this week. All right, guys, if you like this video, make sure to check us out on all of our social media. We also have a Discord service if you are interested, and you can find all of our socials in the description below.